I feel like there is something that I should talk about because it basically presents the biggest change in my life in the last 10, 15 years. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you people watching this at least have some experience with this, or maybe you feel exactly the same way. Now, what has happened is that my relationship to the guitar has drastically changed, especially in the last 5 years. And I have spent a lot of time struggling and trying to define what is actually the problem so I could potentially solve the problem. Because for my particular case, guitar simply still presents a huge portion of my life. So basically, it takes up a lot of capacity, and it is one of the most important things in my life. And I understand there are a lot of different important things, such as family, health, and there are a lot of different important things in life. Of course, guitar is not the most important thing, but guitar has defined me for a very, very long time. And now I'm basically running a business that is completely related to the guitar. And it is simply something that I spent doing for such a long time that it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure that, there are other people who love their job, but I also do think that there is a difference between being a musician or a guitar player compared to, for example, being a plumber. I'm pretty sure plumbing can be fun and people can love plumbing, but nobody became a successful or good guitar player or good musician or even a decent musician without having exorbitant amounts of love towards that topic. You can see those kids when parents force them to go to music school and they simply have no interest in music. That's bad. On the other hand, there are people who simply either have the gene or, they were born under the right star. And I guess I was born under the musician star. It was simply something that I wanted to do since I was a child. And I knew what I wanted to do. Now, stuff has changed, and I've been struggling with that change for some while, and I've been working on defining that. And that's why I actually want to ask you guys for your opinion, and if possible, for your help. And I will explain exactly what is happening. So I started playing guitar quite late. I couldn't afford a guitar, so around about the age of 18, I bought my first guitar and I started playing guitar. I was obsessed with it. I played 14 hours per day. Eventually, I became good enough so people would pay me for what I was playing. And it's an interesting thing because I was born in 1993. So when I started playing guitar at the age of 18, where I was at, I simply knew some people who were doing cover gigs. So I went to that cover road. I didn't really like the original bands, and I didn't really see playing in an original band as an option at the time when I started, which was obviously a mistake, but I started playing in cover bands. I learned a lot of songs. It was useful because you would learn a lot of songs and you would learn how to play guitar. I would learn harmony and theory. I wanted to be the best, obviously. Don't we all want to be the best guitar player? So I spent a lot of time playing guitar, eventually got good at it. And at some point, I was playing guitar in a band on a cruise ship. So eventually, obviously, I started paying my rent, through guitar. And I ended up on a cruise ship playing in a band. And after a few contracts on a cruise ship playing in a band, stuff changed because over there, I experienced something that was really interesting for me, and it was really important for me where I didn't know it was super important for me. I was playing gigs to people who were not listening to us playing. We were stinking in the corner. And I never realized how much I hated that until I got there. And that was kind of the turning point, because at that point, I kind of stopped practicing guitar, slowly stopped practicing guitar, even though I had this job, so I had to practice practice the new songs. And, I'd transcribe the songs in 5 minutes and I wouldn't really practice them. I don't think that was really smart, but I didn't care, you know? And that's where the decline started. So after the cruise ship, I continued working on the cruise ship, but as an engineer. What happened is that I was kind of pretending to be a guitar player. Obviously, I still was a guitar player, I could play guitar, but I was always taking the guitar to my contracts. I always wanted the company to pay for additional luggage, so I would take the guitar and bring it to the ship with me. But I was not really honest with myself. I was never playing that guitar over there. I would have it in my cabin, but I was not really playing that guitar. I was not practicing anymore. I just didn't care. But at that time, I was simply stubborn, and I was always taking it with me because you have to understand it. For me, it was blasphemy if you don't practice guitar for at least half an hour per day. I remember being so frustrated when I had days, if you have to travel somewhere or something, so you lose the day. You're not practicing guitar that day. I was frustrated by these things, and eventually it came to the point where I don't touch the guitar for like 2 months. The guitars are around me in my home. I look at them. I just don't practice. I became lazy, and it was really a struggle to practice guitar. But I did have a lot of attempts to practice guitar, and I would practice guitar for 3-4 days. I would motivate myself and I would be disciplined, but it didn't really work out. I would just go back to the sorry state of not practicing guitar, and I started becoming a little bit unhappy. I wouldn't say that I was really, really unhappy, but it was weird because I kind of stopped caring. So I started having these mixed feelings about the guitar as the time progressed, and me not practicing, my chops were gone. I didn't know what to play. I forgot all the songs. Whenever I would take the guitar, I would be like, noodling. If you've been following this channel, you would know that I don't really like noodling. And it was also mixed with the fact that I didn't really listen to music, like rock music, guitar music anymore. I would listen to it on my headphones sometimes when I travel or stuff like that, but I don't really listen to that music during the day when I work because it kind of distracts me. And I started becoming a little bit annoyed by this. Maybe not annoyed, but I became a little bit concerned because of these mixed feelings, because it came to the point where I needed to be honest with myself. Now, here's the paradox. You're listening to me, a guy who has a YouTube channel that's built around the guitar. I do have a business built around the guitar. I'm surrounded by guitar amplifiers. I build guitar pedals and that kind of stuff. I never said that I don't like the sound of the guitar. I never said that I don't really, like the gear or stuff like that. I simply don't play guitar anymore. I don't spend time playing the notes. I kind of changed and I listen to stuff now. I enjoy the amplifiers and that stuff, but also my relationship to all that has changed. But the paradox is that this is my life. This became my life, but actually I have these mixed feelings towards the actual instrument. It's weird, right? It's weird that I love all this stuff, but the thrill is gone, if you know what I mean. And I'll give you an example. For example, I'm not impressed by players anymore, even though I have absolute respect to all people who play well. I'm just not... I'm neither inspired by, especially like shredding guitar players. I'm not impressed. I don't really care about the new Fender Master Build. I don't really care about the new finish. I mean, I still like it. I can try it maybe for like 5-10 minutes, the new pedal, the new amplifier, but I don't really care for it that much. I'm completely fine with everything. I like tube amplifiers for sure. I'd play tube amplifiers, any kind of pedals. Sometimes cheaper pedals, they do just fine. Sometimes a boutique pedal, oh, it sounds great, this guitar, that guitar. Tonex? That confuses a lot of people. How can a tube amp guy play the Tonex? It's just fine. If I can dial in a good tone on a Tonex, sometimes I imagine You know, those wet dreams. If I ever played in a cover band again, which is something that I will never do, but you know what I mean. If I ever had to do multiple gigs, I would not take a Marshall over there. I just don't care for arguing with the singer or the sound guy. I just don't care about that. I would take the Tonex. I do still love the tube amplifiers, and I will always love tube amplifiers and pedals and that kind of stuff over any kind of digital modeling gear. I don't care. But that's not the topic. I'm kind of diverging. So the love remains, but the cravings are almost completely gone. But here's the thing. I started thinking about this, and I wanted to break down what actually happened. First of all, I wanted to realize what was the initial drive for me to become a guitar player. What was it about guitar that I loved so much that made me play that much and eventually become, at least fairly good, that I could be paid for what I was doing. And I realized that there were multiple components to this. The first one being completely egotistical and competitive, which is somehow consistent with the age. I wanted to be the best guitar player in the world, obviously. Everybody wants to be the best guitar player in the world. I was practicing, I wanted to get the best gear. It was competitive, and I like competitions, and it felt good at the time. To be perfectly honest, that's completely gone. I don't care about that anymore. I'm not impressed by other guitar players. I love to see them play. I just love to see them and hear them play. I love when they're happy. That's kind of what I became, a technical person. I kind of get the same feeling of fullness, if you know what I mean, when I make somebody enjoy guitar, as much as I would get this feeling when I would enjoy the guitar, when I would help someone with their sound, and I would set up, just be a tech person, sound guy or something. I like to see them play, but I don't really feel like there is any kind of, competitiveness between me and that person, at least not from my side. So that's completely gone. A second thing that was driving me to play guitar was obviously the music itself. And that is not gone. That has changed. Now, that thing has definitely changed because back when I was playing guitar, whenever I would take the guitar, I could just jump into another world, a world where I didn't have the problems that I have in this world. In that world, I could just escape. It was kind of an escape for me, as I'm sure that guitar is an escape for a lot of you. And I would escape with the guitar to this amazing world where I was safe. And it felt great. I was inspired. I was, creating some kind of music. But today, I actually feel like I can still escape to the same place. I just don't need the guitar for it, to be perfectly honest. I don't need to play guitar. I can go to that place through doing what I just mentioned. I can make somebody else happy and listen to them, and I can go to that place. My listening to music actually changed for me, that I can listen to music and go to that place. I can build a pedal and go to that place, even though I'm gonna play the pedal for like 10 minutes and put it on a shelf. The process of designing that pedal and noodling a little bit takes me to that place. And I really love that, but that stuff has changed, and it still doesn't make me practice guitar. It still doesn't make me want to take the guitar and actually practice. Now, the third thing that made me play the guitar initially was definitely a social thing. I do believe that electric guitar, especially the blues rock thing that I was doing, it is a social thing. It's an instrument that should be jammed. This is a topic that should be just shared with other people. That's what I believe. You go to gigs, you go to bars, you go to rehearsals, you hang out with people. Back in the day, we would go, to music shops, and I don't want to make this video like nostalgia driven, like back in the day when there were music shops, but the social component is gone for multiple reasons. First reason is I always start with myself. Maybe I'm the problem. Well, I'm far less social than I was before. Not because I want to be antisocial. It's just times have changed. I don't drink anymore. I don't go to certain places anymore. Why don't I go to these certain places? Well, stuff is gone, at least where I'm at. I'm pretty sure that wherever you're at, stuff has changed as well. But specifically where I'm from, I live in a city where culture was very important. We had streets full of bars. I'm talking dozens and dozens of bars that had gigs every night during the week. Every night. There were so many places to go. People were playing really good music and it was really enjoyable. So there was this social component to it, which is now almost completely erased. I don't want to get into politics, but there are various reasons why culture is being erased. First, right? A lot of these bars are gone. The bars that are left are in a sorry state. The bands that are left are in a sorry state. Since COVID, so many people just stopped playing in a band. And people from original bands couldn't sustain themselves anymore, so the original bands disbanded. Even the cover bands that are left are in sort of a sorry state because they don't really practice. They just go do their gigs, play their old set list to get their money. And I'm not interested in even seeing that. So it is a kind of a sorry state, which made me not participate in that anymore. So the social component is completely gone for me. And not to mention that it is really hard being on the same page with a single person, much less like 3-4 people when you need to find a drummer, stuff like that. It's really hard. And this really comes from me talking to musicians because I repair stuff. If you've been watching the channel, you would know that I do this stuff professionally. I talk to musicians very frequently, and this is the story of a lot of musicians. It's very hard to form a band, very hard to work with people. There's not a lot of money, so there's no money to bond the people, if you know what I mean. So it's really a struggle. So it's not only me. It's definitely me, partly, but it's not only me, and the social component is gone. Now, what happened in the process is that YouTube came along and social media came along for me in my life. And that's like in the last 1 year, for example. I stopped doing my job on a cruise ship. I started doing social media stuff, informing the Slightly Technical Academy, and it's my business. It's my life now. And this is a completely new playground for me. And it's super interesting. And I feel like I'm on a weird crossroads where I can kind of go back to being a musician, but I still don't feel like I want to be a guitar player. I still don't take the guitar. Yes, I would record the guitar. Sometimes I can record something, but I'm not getting any better at guitar. I'm not learning any new songs. I don't feel like I want to do that. It's sort of weird, but I want to record. I want to produce. I'm interested in other instruments. I'm interested in music. I'm interested in all this engineering stuff, but I still kind of don't want to play guitar. Another thing that is a problem with that is that it's really lonely. When you create something like this, a little home studio, you end up spending a lot of time in that home studio, and you end up not being very social, doing a lot of lonely work and creating music in a very lonely atmosphere, which is yet again something that is new for me, and I feel like it's not really normal, especially if you want to be a blues, rock, jazz musician, stuff like that. I understand like composing and doing some different type of music, maybe, yeah, but still I feel like there is this social component that I lack. If I had a social component, like maybe if I had a band or if I had a project, maybe I would be driven to practice more. But when I'm alone, like here, like, I don't care. I would just get my chops up to the point where I can record something that I want to record. Doesn't need to be flashy, doesn't need to be special, but I'm happy with the entire process. But still, the guitar is like, do you feel the same sometimes? Did you experience something like this? Or maybe a good question for the more experienced consumers of this channel would be, is it a phase? Will it pass? Because I've seen some people talk about it as being a phase. I've seen some people get back to playing guitar. I don't really know. I would like to know your opinion. But before we finish this video, I want to read something to you because I wrote this problem to ChatGPT. And since I'm not a psychologist, far from it, and I needed some help, so I will read you the prompt that I wrote to ChatGPT, and then I will read the answer, and I would really like to know your opinion on this. So here's the prompt. I wrote the entire story, the shortened version obviously, and I asked, what do you think about my story from a psychological standpoint? What is happening to me? And here's what Mr. ChatGPT answered. So number 1, shift from identity to integration. When you were younger, guitarist was a core identity. You practiced 14 hours per day, competed, and lived socially through it. Now, it's no longer who you are, but one of many tools of expression, sound design, engineering, production. That transition can feel like loss. I don't want to play anymore. But it's also integration. Guitar is no longer the center, but a part of a bigger creative whole. Number 2, loss of external reinforcement. Psychologically, habits and passions thrive on social reinforcement, gigs, applause, bandmates, scenes. When the social ecosystem collapsed, no bars, no gigs, fewer peers, the reward loop broke. Without that external fuel, your motivation shifted inward into YouTube, studio work, engineering. Number 3, change in motivational drivers. Early, ego plus competition plus mastery. Now, curiosity, creativity, contribution. So engineering, producing, teaching. This is very common. Competitive, ego-driven motivation often fades with age or experience to be replaced by a need for meaning and creation. So Marco, you're not young anymore. 4, hedonic adaptation, thrill versus love. The thrill is gone, but the love is there. Classic hedonic adaptation. What once gave you adrenaline now feels flat, but the deep affection remains. This is not failure, it's like moving from a teenage crush to a long-term relationship. It's very interesting. 5, identity grief. Part of what you're experiencing is mourning the old guitarist you. It's almost like losing a friend. You remember the excitement, but you're not that person anymore. Let me know your thoughts on this. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And check out the Slightly Technical Academy. It's a place where we can actually have fun together. I'll see you guys.